Welcome. My name's Bobby Hackett. You've seen my name. Now, some of you get to see my face. I've been working with Scott for 8, 9 years now, trying to sort of make this happen. And every semester, we're taking a big leap forward. And this is by far the largest, already, it's by far the largest summit we've had. The goal is to have students share their campaigns and then actually have faculty share a little bit about their experiences teaching. And I'm going to ask in a second for the students who are, I'll ask it right now, actually, the students who are here who are going to present their campaign, and every campaign who's here should have one presenter. If you could put your name, your school, and the campaign title in the chat now, and that'll make it easier for us to sort of track who is presenting. And the very first person will be Paulina from University of San Diego. Scott, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Scott Myers-Lipton. I know many of the faculty, obviously, who are on the call, and the students. Just want to say I've been emailing you, so thank you for responding to my emails. Super excited to hear from you. You know, this is a really exciting night because we get to hear from you about what you learned, you know, in your social action experience. And so that's exciting for us as faculty members. For us, we do it for the students. So to hear your perspectives is very important for us. Just so you know, for the students, you know about the faculty that are on, you know, there's probably 40 to 50 faculty who are here, and they're all different types of faculty. And some of who are just interested in social action, who've never gone through any of our trainings, but are just interested. Some of the faculty have actually gone through the training or our institutes and learned how to do social action. And then some of those folks have actually are waiting to we have like 7 institutes next spring, and they'll be trained. So they're here to hear from you about what you learned. So they are really interested. And then some of it have gone through the institutes and actually are teaching it or have taught it. And so there's a whole host of those on the call. So a lot of different folks from around the country, and they're really here to hear you and what you got out of it. So again, welcome. We're really excited to hear from you.
Starting with Paulina from University of San Diego.
All right, guys. Hi. So we're from the University of San Diego. We're currently in Patagonia, Arizona, working. We're going to have a peaceful protest tomorrow. We are working with a conflict that happens here in the town with an Australian mining company that we're just trying to make them, we're not trying to stop the mine because they're dealing with very important national security minerals, very important for the country and for batteries that run electric cars. So it's very important. Manganese is one of those minerals. So what we're trying, one of our requests or asks is that they take accountability for the water usage. As some of you may know, mining uses a lot of water. We are in Arizona, which is a desert. Even though they have some water, underground water in this area, it's still a desert, and we still need a lot of resources in this area. We're also located in one of the most biodiverse areas in the country, and this is a very important place for species when they migrate. So we want them to be accountable for the water they use. They want them to make accountable for the restoration projects that they have, and they have been advertising in their webpage. Do you want to add something else?
Yeah, no, we'd come here before, and the people a lot of the people had asked for help when we had come here. So we kind of formulated a plan. We know with the current political system or how it looks right now, we're going to not stop the mine. We want to just make sure they do it environmentally sound. There's a lot of pollution that comes from mining. We want to better the world, but we don't want to hurt the environment by doing that to save it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. So I'm going to move to Irma Galaviz.
I am from Fresno State. Our campaign is called SAFE, Students for Family Education. Our vision is to create educational opportunities for parents, empowering them and their families while focusing on preventing future encounters with child protective services. Our mission is to develop a distinctive program tailored to current or former parents involved in a CPS case And this program aims to offer grants and specialized counseling services delivered by a counselor. And then, so our demands, we demand a specific program for current and former protective service recipients. We demand there be a counselor that specializes in academic support and counseling services. We demand financial resources to support those without a GED and general financial resources for those who need help while pursuing in higher education. We demand a collaboration to be connected with cultural brokers, parent partners, to have a case manager that will guide clients towards pursuing a higher education. And a counselor will assist parents by offering counseling, academic support, and resources for basic needs during their education. The counselor's primary focus is to build rapport with parents to help them succeed and in completing their degree and achieving graduation. And currently, we've met with the director at Fresno City Counseling, and he has already agreed with getting a counselor there. We just need to get the parents, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get in connection with the CEO of Cultural Brokers, who has the parents there, and help them get them connected to education.
So the next one, Taryn from Minnesota State Mankato.
Hi, yeah, I'm Taryn. I'm from Minnesota State University, Mankato. We did our campaign. Our campaign name was Students for Stress-Free Housing. We chose this campaign because affordable housing is an issue that we're seeing like our fellow classmates struggle with, and some of us in the campaign struggle with being able to afford housing. We're seeing students having to pick between things like getting their groceries or other basic needs or paying their rent. So it's a really big issue that many students are having to deal with. We also wanted to look more into like rent stabilization because rent is continuing to go up each year. It goes up a certain percent each year, kind of depending on where you live. So we wanted to look deeper into that and see if there were any changes we could make to stabilize rent or lower the percent that it goes up each year. So far for our campaign, we've done some like tabling. We did a bunch of surveys. We've gone around campus and connected with different students, different faculty, and yeah, it's just been a really good experience, like getting out there campaigning and working on something that we're all very passionate about. So our policy that we came up with, we wanted to change the current rent stabilization policy. Instead of allowing rent to increase to be based on percentage each year, we wanted to propose setting a fixed rent amount, like a cap for rent and housing complexes. This would mean rent remains stable and does not increase annually beyond the capped amounts. So we just wanted to really focus on that part of it, so rent could be affordable.
Thank you. Next on the list, I have Ali Spiker, WVU.
Hello, yeah, that's me. So I'm excited to share about my social action project, Step Towards Safety, which is an initiative focused on making West Virginia University's crosswalks safer. From the outset, we recognize the challenge of addressing campus safety in a meaningful way. WVU has had a history of pedestrian and vehicle collisions, including 2 tragic accidents that resulted in fatalities within the last 10 years. One particularly notable case involved a star football player who struck a pedestrian in this situation was concealed from the media. So with a combination of windy roads at West Virginia University and steep hills across campus, this issue has persisted for decades, underscoring the urgent need for action. So our demands included increasing WVU signage by 1 crosswalk sign with a certain focus on a street right on the border of campus. Additionally, we have aimed to amplify the message of student safety by social media campaigns, tabling, petitions, and collaborating with organizations such as SGA. So we are currently working on finalizing partnerships with key stakeholders, including University Police Department, the city engineer, and campus leadership. So one of our first obstacles was dealing with the unpredictable weather. You cannot put crosswalks down after early fall. So additionally, engaging stakeholders in our project was no small assignment. Responses were slower than expected, which definitely tested our patience and perseverance, but these kind of strengthened our end result. So we actually just got word that a new crosswalk safety sign will be installed in the upcoming spring semester, and this is just one milestone, and we will continue to work on this in the following semester.
Next up is Breeza from Fresno State.
Hi, yeah. My name is Risa. I am here representing RPF, which is reduced parking fees for students, for Fresno State students. Currently, we are paying $93, which is a lot more than faculty members here on campus. We are demanding that student parking be reduced to $45 per semester. The way we came up with this was meeting halfways. We asked students on campus how much they are willing to pay or how much they can afford to pay parking, and we met in the middle between the parking prices and their affordability, like in terms of what they can pay, especially because tuition fees are increasing over the last years. And we currently believe that we are paying too much because our parkings are not as close to our campus as they should be, and that's kind of out of our reach because we spoke to traffic and operations and they're actually introducing new systems, which is gonna raise the prices a lot more than they should be. We have met with the chief of traffic and operations and he's willing to work with us and finding a way to kind of reduce those parking fees, but it's becoming difficult because we haven't been able to meet with them in person. They've kind of ghosted us in a way. So we're meeting with the dean of students and hoping to find another way around that. And that's kind of what we've been dealing with, but we do hope to find a way and meet with them halfway at least.
Next up, Emma Wyckoff.
My name is Emma Wyckoff from Rhodes College, and I'm representing our group, which is called Palestine Students for Justice in Palestine, Divestment from Defense Contractors. Obviously, the current situation in Palestine is an awful humanitarian crisis. So it was our hope that we can aid it how we can by looking at our own school's finances, specifically with how our money in the school's endowment is invested in companies or defense contractors that might be involved in the weapons producing and the humanitarian violations taking place there. We were organizing a community town hall to include our school's vice president of finance and the company that manages our endowment, with fielding questions from the audience by a mediator, with the intent of our concerns being heard and answered so we could lay the foundations of accountability, which would allow us to pursue more formal commitments to transparency and divestment. Unfortunately, they did reject that and shut it down. So we're currently working on hosting another community meeting or town hall in the spring. Right now, we're acting as a branch of our school's Students for Justice in Palestine organization. We're a little independent, but we're definitely tied to them. But we have been forming ties with the Rhodes Students Demand Action, which has also been pursuing divestment in gun manufacturers, and the Rhodes YDSA, and we're hoping to reach out to even more organizations with the hope that in future semester, we can create a concrete interest group, a coalition for divestment that can specifically target our school's finance department and advocate for the cause more than just what our current smaller group is doing.
The next person up is
Hi.
Si Yang.
Yes, Sichi. Hi, so we're a student campaign from University of Michigan, and our campaign is Our Gardens. Our goal is to promote the school to build more rain gardens on campus. So rain gardens can help absorb and filter the rainwater and reduce flooding, and also support the local biodiversity by planting some native species. And currently, the city of Ann Arbor has a goal of creating more rain gardens, but there is literally no so much thing done by the University of Michigan. So we collaborated with the sustainability office of our university to promote them to turn more green spaces into rain gardens. Our demand is to promote them to add at least one rain garden into their sustainability plan in next year. And as students, we are a very crucial part of our community. So we have a kickoff event to sign on pledge, and we want to collect as many signatures as possible to let the school see that we have this many people that care about this issue and will agree to our demand. And we will give these signatures to the sustainability office. And the kickoff event just ended this afternoon, and we have collected over 100 signatures from our students and staff. So it's a really successful outcome for us, and we'll continue to do this.
We have two more here. Bianca Carrillo, Norris to Flourish, Fresno State.
Hi, so I'm going to be representing Nourish to Flourish. My name is Bianca Carrillo. I'm currently at Fresno State. So our campaign is to get Fresno State to provide free lunch for students on campus. Our demands are from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then we want them to use the dining hall. So basically just one free pass for each student to for the dining hall. We want to advocate and implement a sustainable program that will provide these free nutritious meals, because a lot of students at Fresno State, we've done petitions, we've walked around, interviewed people. There's a lot of students that will go all day without eating, and it's not ideal for a successful education. And we had a meeting on this Tuesday. We had a meeting with Kent Willis, who is the vice president at Fresno State, who deals with student affairs. And he flaked on us. He wasn't in office. We're currently trying to reschedule that, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to get that done by the end of the semester. But yeah, we were very excited about it and everything. We still are, and we truly believe it's something that every school, every university needs. There are universities like UC Berkeley who are already implementing these programs where there's free access to free food for students. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Abby Miller, do you have a presentation?
I've been asked to speak for somebody else. Okay, so I don't have all the facts. I just heard about it yesterday in class, but I'm going to speak about the Maps Against Paid Parking campaign. So our school has really hefty fees for our parking permits, depending on how close you are to campus. And so this group moved to build ramps for more parking, because we also found out that MSU oversells their parking permit tickets. Even so, if you pay for a parking permit, you might not even get a spot. You're not guaranteed a spot. It's pretty much first come, first serve. And this group also found out that we have a free lot that's a couple blocks away, and there's some people on the city of Mankato and our school system that want to get rid of the free lot and pay a fee to even be that far away from campus. And so they wanted to get the word out about that, because nobody wants that to happen. And then we also found out that MSU uses the money from the parking permits to pay employees, and they claim inflation is leading to the increase in the prices of permits, but we're not getting more parking spots and nothing is changing except for inflation. And MSU is $8 million in debt, so they said no to the ramp idea.
And then finally, Allison Schultz from WVU.
Yep. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison, and our social action group was called Friends of the Rail Trail. A little background knowledge: the rail trail's in West Virginia and PA, and it spans about 48 miles. It runs right through our campus at WVU. It's like right beside some of our campus buildings. All of our group members use it regularly. A lot of the WVU students use it regularly. It's a great addition. It runs right along, but most of the time we know that it's littered, it gets dirty, we see graffiti all over the fences, and it feels unsafe in general. After some research, we know that these unsafe feelings come from just a trail being unkept and dirty and littered. And so our idea was to promote eco-friendly habits while using the rail trail. So a few of the things that we've done so far: we've worked with WVU maintenance, and we've got a trash can installed on our campus right beside the trail, and that's used pretty regularly now. We always see it filled. We've worked with the Board of Parks and Rec and the City Council to paint over some graffiti on the fences, as well as go around and clean up the trail, picking up a bunch of litter. We've put flyers directing to the Rail Trail Conservatory, which basically maintains the entire trail, cleans it all up, does all the volunteerism for it. And so we put those all around campus. And then most recently, we've started a petition that garners support for eco-friendly slogan signs to be put along the rail trail permanently. So things like "Keep West Virginia Beautiful," "Graffiti Ruins the View," things of that nature. And we have almost 200 signatures. So that's it.
Well done. Awesome. We want to pose a question to the students. So in the chat, if you could start answering 2 questions, and either one or both, which is, what was the greatest learning experience from the class for you? And how did it help you grow or change? Okay, Nathan.
Yes, thank you. I guess my question for the students is, how often did students meet, and when did they meet? Because it's been a challenge, the group work. And so I'm just curious how that worked out. Thank you.
We met during class, and then we have a group chat and we talked all the time together. So we mainly met during class, and then when we had because the group went to peer support group meetings for the CPS parents, and then we also went to Fresno City, and that was on our off time from class.
Nice. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay. Laura.
Well, since I'm going to be attending the Institute when is it? In January, the virtual one. I'm curious as to whether the students that have taken these classes knew that they were going to be working on these campaigns before they even registered. And if they didn't know that this was a component of the class, how did they initially feel about it? Like, were they reticent about it and like, oh my God, what are they asking us to do? Or, were they excited about having this opportunity? In other words, how do I sell these to my students so that they don't drop from the class the first week?
Nice.
Good question.
So we knew about it because I had this professor previous semester, and he mentioned that he was going to do something like this. At first, I did not want to take his class because I didn't want the extra workload of, the whole campaign, going out on our own time. But I think giving the students enough time in class to do their campaigns really opens up the opportunity for students to be more willingly and more excited about it, because we have internships, we have a lot of other things happening, but it became more exciting as we started seeing we started seeing change, or we started moving forward with the campaign.
I was the opposite. I actually didn't know that we were going to be doing a campaign for this class. So the first class, when we went over the syllabus and everything and we learned what we were going to be doing, it was kind of overwhelming at first, but I feel like the last person mentioned, giving class time to do it is very helpful, and also encouraging the students was really helpful because it doesn't have to be as overwhelming as it seems, and just being encouraging for your students is really nice, at least from a student perspective too.
And Travis took it one step at a time with us. Like, these are our ideas, and this is our next step, and this is what we need to do. And it wasn't all thrown at us at once.
Travis, you have your hand raised.
First, I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of my students and the work that they've done this semester. We've got a couple of students from Fresno State who aren't in the class yet, but I hope they'll be in a class in the future. So we're kind of building that type of momentum at Fresno State at the same time. In terms of the challenges, I really haven't, just so full transparency for everybody on the call, I've not done a campaign myself, right? I've not been part of a campaign. So to teach something like this was really challenging for me because I just didn't know what it would lead to. And it is a required class. So the students didn't have a whole lot of choice. And my students early on in the semester petitioned to get rid of it. And so that process just played out, right? They said, we want out. And so then we said, okay, well, what does that mean? And so basically the students had to come up with an alternative assignment. And at the end of the semester, I think we ended up with 4 students who didn't participate in a campaign and instead did research on a successful campaign. And so they had to do a research paper instead. It's an incredible amount of work that they've got to do, because I didn't necessarily want it to be easier than doing the campaign. And so we had to set up some parameters around that, but I haven't seen those papers yet, but I'm excited to see what they came up with as well. So that's one idea about providing an alternative for people.
I think I'm curious to hear a little bit about researching your issues, how much time you spent on researching issues, and maybe a couple of examples of things that worked really well for you in that research so you could prepare to interact with other folks on your campus that you were trying to persuade, and maybe a couple of things that were hard.
So we didn't research. It was more just Travis asked, what are you passionate about? Anything you want to change. What is it? And we all just wrote on the board. There was so many ideas and options that we could have chose from. And then we narrowed it down to, I think we have 3 of them. And it just, whatever you're passionate about, and you just jump on board with your other classmates. And then Travis, he got us used to hearing the word no. You know, you're gonna hear no, and that's that. And then you can take it and run with it and go to the next person. And he just kind of broke it down for us to make us not afraid to hear no. Because we're gonna hear no regardless. So, and I liked how he did that. But I don't think we did much research on it until after we chose what we were gonna do. And then we had passion about that, and then it just snowballed from there. In our case, we had Irma, and Irma is very passionate about our project, and she has a lot of connections. And so we just all sat down as a group and we decided, okay, how are we going to run with this? Who are we going to campaign against? What are we going to try to change? And she is already connected to Culture Brokers. So we decided to campaign against them to add the schooling to what they already have. And even I've overheard the parking, you know, it was just a big parking thing. And we just talked to the teachers or they talked to the teachers to see how much they paid and went from there.
Casey, I wanted to add a little bit for our campaign. I did a little bit of the research for our campaign. There's been a lot of work in the past towards children because of the child welfare, but there hasn't been anything on the other spectrum, which is the parents. So that's who we are focused on, is the education for the higher education for parents. So it was really interesting to know that there is problems, there's gaps in the parent support area or arena, but there hasn't been very much aside from the traditional counseling, parenting classes. But we found out that the services have been around for a while, but we're still having these issues. It was kind of interesting because we felt like we were, I don't know, for me, and I think for Irma, and maybe for Casey too, let me know if I'm wrong. It was like we were doing something brand new, and these ideas that we were presenting to the CEOs, the directors, they were kind of like sitting back and, oh, like, okay, let me listen. I want to listen to what you're saying, but they didn't really have answers for us. So we kind of had to do a lot of footwork and show them with our presentations, with actions, with Irma got, we have a living person who actually was a CPS parent. And now he is in second semester, I believe.
Internship. He's on
internship.
Yeah, so we're currently working with 3 other parents who have open CPS cases that are becoming a success story. And so what we basically want to do is remove that stigma on parents who get their kids taken away, because it is possible for us to make a change in our life. And I feel like higher education was the answer for me, because I was one of those parents, and I feel like that could be for them too. And I want to help them get out of that vulnerable space and have confidence in themselves, and finding that in higher education.
So let's just hear from those 3 students you wrote about your experience about change and how you felt empowered. So Casey.
So I feel like I don't have a voice. I feel like nobody has a voice, and they're all about me trying to vote, and I don't vote and all this. So when this project came up, I was like, we're not going to change anything. I don't have passion about anything. You know what I mean? But I like Irma. And so when Irma told me about her idea, I was like, okay. And Irma gives me passion because she's so passionate about this subject. And I don't know, we are changing. We are making a difference in these people's lives, and it just makes me feel good. I just didn't think this small of a 4-person group, 5 people, could do much, and we are, and I'm very happy.
Irma, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think being a student, it kind of made me feel like, who's going to listen to me, you know? Who's going to really care? I'm just a student. I haven't even got the degree yet. But doing this campaign, it opened up more like network, more people. I went and I've talked to the mayor of Fresno and proposed my idea to him as well. He signed my campaign, and I really love this campaign. It made me feel very good about what I'm passionate about.
Awesome. Thanks. And Allie, do you want to add to that?
So as a student, we weren't only reaching out to a lot of campus staff. The crosswalk that we wanted to focus on was actually owned by the city. So we went even farther outside of our campus. So we had to contact the city engineer, the city police, to kind of get them to look at this area. And when we saw that we not only partnered with the campus, but we could partner with our just general community, that felt really good.
That's awesome. I'm looking also at Allison Schultz. Do you want to say a little bit more about this networking, because that's one thing that I've also noticed with social action is that it leads to this skill of networking, which we talk about maybe in college that it's important, but students don't get a chance to do it. So maybe just kind of bring that to life of how it worked for you, Allison.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rail trail isn't in jurisdiction within the campus, so we had to go to outside resources, and there was all these different organizations working to clean the rail trail. So it was really hard to find that first step, like where do we go from here? So we reached out to the Conservancy, and just from that moment forward, it started this lineup of so many contacts that we were given. Turns out she was the city council leader and the owner of Bow Park, and helping on so many different levels. We worked with the ambassadors and they gave us their contact information. So just reaching out to the people started this domino effect to get to where we wanted to be and to get to the things that we wanted to do. And I think that was just probably the biggest thing that helped in our success.
That's awesome. And then this Breeza, maybe you say a little about you talk about organizational structure. I used to joke, and my students, they didn't even know where the president's office was, or they didn't know who the provost was. And there's this organizational structure. So maybe you could say a little bit more at how it worked for you and how you kind of came into some deeper understanding about organizational structure.
It's actually interesting because I knew nothing about that either. We were only aware with our president, who is Dr. Sandoval. That's kind of where we went off. We did so much research, like on our Fresno State website. We did encounter some struggles because not all of them are placed on there. But we were able to meet with the traffic operations manager who was willing to go above and beyond for us. Even though we were going against his own department, he shared a lot of his information and he guided us in a way with who to speak to. Travis also helped us a lot because we were kind of stuck on who else to talk to. And breaking that down facilitated the things for us too, because we were able to learn that ASI on our campus plays a huge role with creating the budgets and the way money financial sites work. And we were able to learn as we go. I feel like that's one of the biggest things that you're not going to know who to talk to until you do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the way we worked around. We did get ghosted by some of the people in that structure, but because we had already planned it out with who to talk to, we were trying to go around them and partnering with their partners who aren't necessarily with them. We met with the dean of students who is helping us meet with the chief. So we managed our way around putting it into perspective and deciding who else to speak to if one person didn't work.
And then Madeline, you talked about change on campus and your confidence grew with this project by reaching out to city council members who are not as intimidating as I thought. Maybe to speak a little bit about that, because you get at the heart of what social action, one of the things it's trying to do, that we live in a democracy, but we don't really teach about how to be democratic participants other than maybe voting once every 4 years or 2 years. There's not this education. Your comment really gets at the heart of kind of democratic participation. So do you want to say a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, through this project, I realized how much less intimidating it is to actually talk to the people who represent you. So it was just a few simple emails that got me and Allison and the rest of our group the opportunity to paint fences while also getting the interview these council members, which was really educational. And she offered us so many resources, and we learned about this ambassador program in our city. We're literally, our job is to help organizations like you benefit our community. I didn't even know that existed, and just reaching out to this council member opened so many other doors. It was really cool to learn that there really are more resources available than you might think.
That's awesome. And Bianca, you talk about, I learned to advocate for something I believe in.
Yeah, I'm a shy person, so going up to people and starting a whole conversation with them about something that I believe in was something I had to learn as we went out and talked to people and petition. But it's something you get out your comfort zone and you start growing. And like I said, once you start seeing the change, it starts growing you as a person and you start wanting it more and more and more. It's like a drive I can't explain really, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Jasmine ties in what you're saying is that says, I learned that we ourselves can make the change itself and not wait for someone else to start it. Once we have a group of people who also support what we want, that's how it begins. you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yes, yeah. So I just didn't realize how easy it was to start something that we want to change. It could start literally tomorrow if we have like 2 or 3 people with us.
Awesome. That's all your comments. After I hear young folks and students speak, I get much more hopeful because what you've learned is so powerful. You've learned the lessons of social action, empowerment, human agency, how to do democracy, knowing that that a chessboard exists and that you can play the game of democracy too. So it's just super exciting. Any faculty want to add anything? Oh, yeah, Omotola.
Yes, sorry. I asked my students yesterday, they did their presentation yesterday. We had 6 campaigns, and all of them said at first they never imagined what it looks like to stand in front of a group of people, that they can finally put themselves in my shoes, standing in front of them, because a lot of them had to, like other students have said, get outside of their comfort zone, present to a group of people, and how that can be intimidating in the first place. But because of the passion that they have for the issue, it helped them to overcome that initial fear of what if they reject me? What if they laugh at me? And they were able to still get the job done and educate people and get them to see their point of view and what matters to them as well. For a lot of them, it was very empowering to see that they can actually be part of the change, that they don't have to wait until they graduate and have a job before they can start doing something to positively change the society, no matter how small.
Travis, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, just really quick. So one of the ripple effects for me of this is that I'm teaching this in one class, and then I have another group of students that I'm not teaching social action to, and those students started doing some social action because they didn't like the scheduling of a particular class, and they started challenging and asking questions and meeting with people. And so I just want them to know the associate dean was in my office this morning telling me that they're still thinking about what you said to them. So I just want people to know it's messy, right? These students are told no over and over, and it's really discouraging each time it happens. But it's really energizing to think about it in the whole. So I just wanted to mention that really quick.
Nice. Lee Smythe.
Yeah, quick question. I'm wondering if any of the student groups who presented here tonight at any event reached out to other students at other campuses who had done similar social action campaigns as a resource. So I was struck, I think it was Emily who presented earlier. It was a divestment campaign. I could totally imagine that some of my students might want to do a divestment campaign. And probably one of the first things I'm going to do is, put them in touch with students elsewhere who have been working on those issues. So I'm curious if that was a resource.
Yeah, Travis said we could pick a campaign that was already going as well. We didn't have to come up with our own.
We didn't reach out to, I didn't know anybody from UC Berkeley who, like I said, they're already doing some free meal programs there. Now that you bring that up, I wish I would have thought of that idea. So that is something good to bring up to your class in the future, because that's a good idea right there.
We didn't reach out to any campuses, but I feel like we would have had a lot of support. Because I know in other campuses, like the pricing on parking is really expensive. So I feel like if you reached out to many campuses, we would have had their support.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea to reach out to. By the way, I taught for 24 years. Parking issue came up 3 or 4 times in various campaigns. The basic needs, food, that was always an issue. So there's these issues, I think, that students are going to be, as we go bigger and bigger, we'll have 30 plus classes being taught next semester. We had 11 this semester, 30 next semester plus. So those students, we envision at some point, maybe even getting them, we're doing this at the end of the semester, but maybe even do it earlier so they can talk for the ones that are doing similar campaigns. But I think it's a great question, Lee. So Laura, you have your hand up?
I wanted to ask a quick question, I guess, both to the students and the faculty that have worked with them regarding the level of the courses in which all these wonderful projects were happening. Mostly because I'm thinking of doing this in a what for us is a 2000 level course. It's basically the kind of class that you would take on your second year. And I'm a little bit concerned about whether that's too early for some students, not necessarily because of their age, but because they're just starting their educational experience on campus. And many of the students that I work with are actually, most of them are non-traditional students. So they have families, they have jobs, etc. So how do you factor that? How do you sell it, I guess?
I can talk about this one a little bit. So our social action project, it's in leadership 401 class, so a 400 level class. It's the last class for a leadership minor at WVU. Most of our students right now, I think, are seniors taking the class, but I'm a sophomore taking the class. And I also work a job and everything. I think we've had adequate time laid out for us to do our project. I didn't think that it was too strenuous, especially being a sophomore. I think we have prerequisites for leadership classes that have prepared me for this class. But yeah, I think that it's been really good for me. So I don't think it'd be too much of an issue.
To kind
Awesome.
of feed off of that one, I would actually prefer it to be a class that's offered later, just because I feel like during each year of college, you make more and more connections, you're involved in more clubs, you know more people. And that's the way that a lot of the times I was able to find people to sign petitions or to join us or just spread the word. So I would say later.
I have the opposite. I think earlier to give the students more confidence about themselves, because I'm older, but in the beginning, it was kind of scary to talk to people, but I feel like it would give the students more confidence in themselves to go up to strangers and talk to them, because a lot of them are young. So I think it'd be easier earlier.
I like to second on that too. I feel like I wish I would have started this earlier to actually see more change and actually make more change. I feel like the further you go, the more progress you see. But I'm a senior and I have one more semester and then I graduate. So I can no longer advocate for Fresno State students. And I just felt if you're introduced to it early on, it builds confidence. We became a lot closer with group members. You start networking very early on, and I think that's an advantage.
I know a couple of professors like Lee's teaching it to freshmen. I know he's raised that question in conversation. Is it better to do it earlier or later? So it's good that you say that, Bianca, that earlier, because I know that'll make him feel better.
I just wanted to piggyback on what the students just said. What I'm thinking about doing is I teach social welfare policy class, kind of an intro in the fall and then a follow-up in the spring. And I'm curious what students would think about starting it in the fall, where they're researching a policy, this kind of thing, and then the spring is the actual action.
I think that'd be great, because then we can see it go further on. I think that'd be a great idea.
I
Thank
also
you.
agree. Yeah, I also think it would be a great idea. My idea was from the start, all my projects and all my classes always was based on CPS parents. All my classmates know that about me. And so having it in this class, it just made it more powerful. So yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Marcellus, did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I mean, just throwing it out the folks. I'm just really interested. First of all, this is really great. And I just wanted to know if participating in these classes kind of helped your sense of belonging in terms of feeling either supported or connected or valued. And I know some people put in the chat that they did and they had connection with students, but I was just wondering if someone could speak a little bit more about the effect it had on your whole college experience.
Who would like to answer?
So as someone who commutes, I commute an hour from Merced to Fresno. I felt like I didn't belong at Fresno. Half the time I was there, I didn't really talk to anybody. I was just in and out class. And this gave me a real sense of belonging. I became one with my group members. And then you start talking to other people outside of campus. You build more connections outside of campus. I think it's a very great opportunity to grow as a person.
I can piggyback on that as well. I think just on campus, even social workers, we're social work majors and half of us don't even know where the resources are on campus. So just overall, like campaigning, that is going to help your students that are just coming in, just that, knowing where resources are at or where they go to get their questions answered. It's going to empower students. I wish we would have started earlier for that very reason.
Others?
I really liked what Nathan was suggesting, starting it one semester and carrying it over, because I didn't mind jumping in, but I wanted someone to hold my hand a little more. And I know Travis, he does a really good job in guiding us, but I would love to have had more time because as Bianca said, we're seniors, we're gonna graduate, and I would like to have had the opportunity to carry my project a little bit longer and build more connections with people.
Awesome. I think it'd be good for the students to hear from the faculty, because just so you know, students, a lot of faculty, one, haven't done social action themselves personally, or two, they might have done some, but they've never taught it. And so it's a big step for them to actually go in this role and say, we're going to try to do something really creative and bold and outside the norm within higher education. So I thought it'd be good for you to hear, as well as for the other faculty who are going to teach it, like Jason and Lee and Michael and so many other, Heather, who are going to teach it very soon, next semester or the following. So it'd be good for them to hear from the faculty who are still on. I'm thinking of Omatala and Travis, who are teaching it right now. And there might be some others. So that would be really helpful. If you could say, what was your experience teaching it, both the positives of teaching it and the challenges of teaching a social action class?
I can start. This was my first semester teaching it. It's a macro social work class that I change and turn around into making this more hands-on than instead of saying research a paper and write a 20-page paper. And so for me, I was scared and nervous at first because I wasn't sure how the students were going to react to it, because the first day of class, that was when I informed them that actually this class is going to become a real live attempt to make change happen. And so one of the things I did was to make everybody comfortable, was to say, I'll give you an opportunity to think of an idea that you care about. And then the next class, they got to do a 2-minute elevator pitch about the idea to the whole class. And then the class got to vote on the ideas they liked. And that's how we ended up having 6 different campaigns that the students worked on. Another thing that also was helpful was knowing the kind of student population that we had and the reality of working a lot, living off campus. Some of them, they have to drive 3 hours, 4 hours away from campus to come to school. I divided the semester into 2 halves. So the first 8 or 9 weeks of class was for the theory aspect of things and walking through the textbook and all of those things. Then they had about 6 weeks where instead of meeting 3 hours in class, it was for them to focus on their campaign, meet, talk to people, do their tabling, do their campaign. And so they really, really liked that I gave them that opportunity to be able to use the class time, because it was already hard with other schedules and some of them were single parent and all, to be able to meet other than that. And so having that dedicated time during class time for them to fully focus on that really made a difference for a lot of them and helped them to do that. Also, I did an exercise with them to say no was expected, because that's the reality. Someone said changing things is messy. So I realized that they were going to get a lot of no. And so I tried to reassure them that I'm not expecting them to win. What I wanted was for them to try, to even dare to attempt, because I think it's so easy to count yourself out, to say that you're not part of the change, that there's nothing you can do. And so that was important for me to say over and over again, I just want you to try. I want you to give you the best you got and let's see what happened. And I will say on the downside, one of the things I think I could have done better was I didn't want to force them in one direction or try to micromanage what they should do and who they should talk to and those kind of things. So trying to just say, I'm going to be here to support you. If you have issues, if you have trouble, you can connect with me, but not hijacking their project and trying to do it the way I would do it. I wanted them to learn by trying, and that can be really hard because I want to be able to say, oh, do this, try this, but I wanted them to really think and really own it as their own. And so taking that back seat of letting them be the driver and not me being the driver to say, do this, do that, was hard for me, but over time, I think it helped the students overall as well. And so those are some of the things that came up for us.
Awesome. Travis?
So, Scott, this is really incredible for me, right? To go to an online institute and learn about this last January, and then to have sat by Tola and listened to her stories about her students, and be with some of the folks that are on this call, and some of the folks who haven't even taught it have connected through Zoom. I guess I just want to talk about community building that I have more support as a result of signing up for the Institute and as a result of taking a chance and trying some things. I really appreciate it for those reasons. I wish I had a recording of my students on the first week of class, and then I could play this recording for them. It would be nice to have a crystal ball to say, this is you, and they would call my bluff and say, that's not actually me. The final part I was going to say is that we talked about democracy this last class period, and some of the feeling is it's not real. Democracy is not real, and it's not possible. At least for some of my students, it became more real than it was when the semester started. And for that reason alone, I'm glad I did it.
Beautifully said. Cheyenne. And Cheyenne's like an expert. She's taught it twice. And just so you know, within our community, there's only one other professor that's taught it more than that. So we're grateful for your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on tonight. And like Travis, I just took a chance and signed up on a whim to do this kind of virtual institute. And I teach in leadership studies at West Virginia University, which the topic lends itself very well to this teaching social action. So right from the beginning, I completely changed my entire course schedule. I'll say about 10 or 11 weeks are dedicated to this content. And then I sprinkle in a lot of leadership theory with that. And I try to find some integration, but it can kind of feel a little bit like we're definitely doing class stuff that's around a topic and discussion. And then we're actually doing our social work action. And for many of the students, this whole concept of social action can feel kind of foreign because they are given the keys for this project and very much own it. And I think as a faculty member, what I try to do is, just like Amatola mentioned, giving them lots of support, giving them permission to be bold, asking good questions, and then just creating some guidelines. Scott does a good job in his chapter, identifying some questions that keep students focused and be reflective. And I try to do that same thing. Like at this point, you should be looking at a power map and what's power look like as it's mapped across this topic in your situation. And this community, as Travis mentioned, is rich with resources, and we share a lot of our resources with each other. And that's really helpful to launch into this can be messy. It's not very predictable world of social action. So thanks.
Thanks for that. Students, do you have any questions of them since they asked questions of you?
I have a question.
Oh, Victoria.
Professors who've already started it, how do you guys plan on moving this forward with the campaigns that have already been started from your class? For instance, our parking campaign or the nutrition campaign.
So for me, like if I'm teaching it again, they have portfolios that they have to submit. And so they submitted a physical one and an online portfolio of everything they did, talked about the challenges, the struggle. For instance, one of the campaign group, the person that was their target only gave them 1 day to meet. And he said if they couldn't meet on that day, that was it. He was not willing to meet with them for the rest of the semester. And the day that he chose was the day that they were in class all day long. And there was no way they could meet with him, and every attempt to try to. So for me, my goal is that the next class is offer them, this is what was done in the previous class, if you're interested in carrying it on. And I'm also thinking that if I can invite the students as guest speakers to come and talk to that class in advance, 1 or 2 from each group, to say, this is what we did, this was our experience, and maybe that can also help them while also giving them the option of doing their own thing or coming up with their own idea. So it's offering them that you can continue what has been done, or you can start something else entirely.
Travis?
So on Tuesday, Victoria, we're going to be working on putting things together. That's part of the answer to your question, is we're still building. One of the questions I'm going to have for each of the campaigns is who's willing to be contacted after the semester. What's a personal email, a personal phone number? How are you feeling about staying involved? That's part of it. The other part of it is we're kind of building the ship as it sails. I'm figuring it out too. So that's the other part.
And I would just add, I taught almost 20 years teaching social action every semester. And one of the ways that we can continue the campaigns on a campus is it gets taught every semester. So at least 1, if not 2 courses are happening every semester on a college campus. So that's our long-term goal, but we have to train more faculty. Laura, do you want to add that?
Yeah, I really was wondering whether or not faculty had passed campaigns back and forth. I'm about to teach this class at the University of Michigan, so I'm very interested in the Rain Garden initiative. I'm not sure if that's through SEAS or through Taubman. So I will follow up. Scott, have you seen instructors pass things? Are there any instructors doubling up on a campus and teaching separate courses?
Laura, we're so early in the process that we're just now starting to get people to nominate those folks. So that's where we're hoping to go, is exactly that. It happened at San Jose State because when I left, there's a couple of professors that are continuing and they're swapping back, but it's not normal yet because we just don't have enough people trained. So that's our next step as a movement, is to train those faculty. Bobby, do you have any things you want to?
Well, we asked the question of the students, how they grew. I kind of asked the same question of the faculty. How was any aspect, how you think about teaching? What surprises did you have? And how did it make you think about your role as a professor?
I'll just make a quick comment. I think it's a number of things. It was my move to West Virginia, being kind of a transplant from a different state, understanding the political landscape for which I teach and for which I live. I became an accidental activist for the first time in my life. And so I think colliding with this teaching social action, it was like, oh my gosh, I can empower and encourage other people to go through this transformation by creating the conditions for them to explore and do something. I mean, like, really. And so it's been empowering for me. I learn from my students every single day. I'm inspired by them, and it's fun. I mean, you build really great relationships with students. At least that's been my experience so far. Yeah, it was like a personal transformation colliding with now my pedagogy got to align really well.
For me, I would say it has been a good thing because when I was a student, I used to be very active and try to be part of any action, social action and things like that. And so it became like a full circle that I finally got the opportunity to practicalize and let my students experience what that can feel, because I think that has been missing a lot in most of our curriculum. We've turned like higher education to just this cut and dry, and I missed that part. And so it was really a wonderful privilege to be able to give that gift to my students when I wasn't even sure whether they were going to accept it, love or hate it, or me in that process. And so just being able to give that gift and pass it on for them to see that they can make change happen. They don't have to wait, and they can be leaders now. And for me, professionally, it has helped me to develop a backbone of standing up for things that matters to me. Before, where I would keep quiet in meetings and just let someone talk over my ideas or me, I've been able to speak up for myself more and really stand for what matters to me and what I think is right. And so this idea of speak your truth, even if your voice shake, kind of mindset that it has built in me to say that, you know what, nothing is out of reach for me. I can try, and it's giving me ideas for my other classes to say, how can I integrate more practicality into every classes that I teach, that no matter the level, I want students to go and live, change and transform in one way or the other. So it's challenging me to think more into this calling. It's not just a job to me, it's a calling, and I really want to light the fire for students. I teach in the social work department to really go out there and see these professionals. They can be change makers and they can really make a difference. That's what it has done for me.
I saw your hand up, Heather. Did it make you more excited or more scared?
Actually, I was just clapping, but both. More excited and more scared. I'm eager to do it. I just have to see how it goes, and trusting that is not normally the standard for our classes. Usually we have to build all the content and then deliver it. So this is really exciting. I appreciate all of the students and what you've offered and how much you've clearly grown. That's awesome to hear it.
Anyone else? Jason, how you feeling? You ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I get inspired when I hear people talking. In fact, I was making a list of the various campaigns because I can see this kind of generating a network where people can get resources from other people. And so I think overall, just hearing the lived experiences, I love hearing the students who have talked about hearing the word no or being ghosted by people, but then they didn't give up. They continued to pursue or look for other avenues in which to pursue their campaigns. I like hearing that. I love the words of change is messy. and to stand tall and use your voice, even if it shakes. I'm really looking forward to my course. I was just even in there earlier today just to see how many students signed up. It's almost full. And so I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Lee, what about you?
I've been hoping and planning to do this for a good long time, so it's been kind of brewing, percolating in my head, and it's nice to come and hear folks like Cheyenne and Travis share their experience and some of the stuff confirming what I was imagining, but having no experience to actually know that something might work. So to hear people share things that have worked is helping me map out this next semester. And so I appreciate all the contributions, and I look forward to sharing about my experience maybe after next semester.
Look forward. So have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy
Bye,
the
everyone.
holidays. Be well.
All right.